Hello, everyone. I am Dani Moreno, and I am currently double majoring in Spanish and Chicano Latinx Studies, and I am an instructional intern for the class Chicano Latinx 157, Section 1, Introduction to Latin America Studies. For my activist project, I decided to propose an elective intro to Central American Studies class to the MCGS department. I would like to start this presentation by giving you a little list of the classes that talk a little bit about Central American history. First, we have Intro to Latinx. That is the class I'm an intern for. And according to the syllabus, this class pays special attention to the issues of colonialism, human rights, US foreign policy toward Latin America. We also have History 381, Modern Latin America. The final weeks of this class, they focus on Latin America's experiences with a military dictatorship and current transition to democracy. In third place, we have Chicano Latinx 415, Latinx and immigration. This class is an immigration class and is a social historical examination of the migration and settlement of Mexican, Caribbean, South American, and Central American origin people to the United States. What all these classes have in common is that they only teach about Central American history for 2 weeks or less, which is not enough time to go into like deeper understanding and for students to critically analyze the issues that affected the Central American people in the past and the issues that still affect them today. The demographics show, the CSU Chico demographics show that how diverse our Chico community is. And we have 36.34% Hispanic Latinx students of any race. We have 9.30% Hispanic Latinx employees of any race. And since I did not have a solid demographic that will show me the ethnicities of the students, I wanted to take the class I'm an intern for and show you a little bit of how diverse our class is. So through an assignment that I did at the beginning, titled Who Am I asked students to tell me a little bit about their origins, and turns out that 25 out of 43 students were mixed students. That meaning they were either Salvadorian, Puerto Ricans, Hondurans, Nicaragua, Guatemalans, or Costa Ricans. And the Central Americans studies class will talk a little bit about Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. And we also talk about the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Cuban, Dominican Republic. And what all these countries have in common is how the US imperialism affected them like really badly, that many people are fleeing their countries, and like gang violence and like the aftermath of wars and like taking into account the class I'm an intern in and how diverse the class is, I realized how many countries were left out on the lesson: imperialism and US interventions in Central America. We only talked about Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, and that's because like these are like connected like in their history. And we talked about Puerto Rico, a little bit about Puerto Rico, but like I said, like I feel like 2 weeks are not enough to really like touch on the topic of how the issues still affect Central American people today. The only CSU university that I found, the only university that I've found that teaches Central American history is the California State University of Northridge, which is recognized as enrolling the largest number of international students at a public comprehensive university, and it's the only one that founded the nation's first American Studies program in 2011. It was also recently recognized by the White House for its efforts to diversify engineering fields among Hispanics. A little note from Murillo says that CSU students are particularly diverse compared to other students of other state schools. And the Department of Central American and Transborder Studies has a trifold mission, and that is to empower the large growing Central American community in the United States. My proposal is to have a new elective Central American class that would ensure that the growing population of Central Americans in the US are not forgotten. This Central American studies will help students learn about the rich experiences and traditions of a variety of Central American countries. I will be proposing the class to the MCGS department as an elective class requirement for Chicanx Latinx studies and ethnic studies with an equivalent of 3 units. The first semester could be taught by any MCGS instructor that specializes in ethnic studies, since like many instructors are teaching classes that they don't specialize in. I have a syllabus here. I really don't want to go through it because it's a lot, but I'm just gonna show you what it looks like. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger for you to see. Okay. So obviously we have the first page and like what the class is about. The materials, like I decided not to have any required texts for the class. The instructor could give you access to PDFs of weekly readings through Blackboard and through the syllabus. And also like we will have like interactive graphics, videos and other materials available on the class slides that could help students with a better understanding on the issues of Central American people. We have the course fulfillments here. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the note. This section of Intro to Central American Studies is taught through a critical lens, like all critical studies. This one centers issues of power and avenues for social change, as well as emphasizing the complex context in which historical and current events occur. So rather than 100% class-based, 100% lecture-based class where students passively memorize information, students are active in their learning, bringing in their own knowledge experiences as Latinx and Central Americans, and critically thinking and reflecting on the materials covered. So while there will be some lecture, the majority of the class time will be spent in discussion or activities. We have, just gonna skip through this and show you like the grade breakdown. The participation will be 25%. That meaning that in the participation, we have attendance and class participation. We have 4 critical responses that only 3 will be counted on the grade. And we have 2 self-reflections and the final critical response paper that they're gonna have at the end, and that's gonna count for 70% of their grade. We also have like all the topics that we're gonna be talking about throughout the semester, and we have the readings right here on the right. And yeah, this is the syllabus for the class. Going back to the presentation, like the topics that will be analyzed in Central American Studies will be the historical introduction to politics, cultural and socioeconomic aspects of the Central American experience, Central American identity in light of the great variety of experiences of race, gender, ethnicity, and social class in the Central American community. And a very important one, I think, is how have Central American authors and artists used, literature and poetry to actively protest about the issues affecting their community now and then. For the objections, solutions, I really just found 2. And like one of the objections could be no instructor that specializes in the class. I feel like any instructor that specializes in ethnic studies could teach the class. Most instructors that specialize in the topic could be hired in the future. I know like of instructors that are not like, are not specialized in some like classes that we are learning right now. And what they do is just like prepare like during the summer, like do research to be prepared for the students. Another objection could be we already have classes that teach Central American history. I know we do have classes, but like I feel like those classes don't dedicate enough time for students to critically analyze the issues that Central Americans faced in the past and still face today. And although Central American and Chicana studies are not similar topics and can support solidarity between both groups, Central American experiences are different enough to stand alone. Understanding Central American experiences, I feel like makes it possible to counter argue negative stereotypes. And I feel like without access to this knowledge, how do you learn about Central America without the negative tweets? There are things that aren't in your average history book, like about how the US is involved in Central America or in Latin America or in the world for that matter. So like the conversations that we would hold in the class often go back to the centuries of colonization to explain how Central American is doing now. And for example, like in Honduras, they're living under an oppressive government sponsored by the US and people are fleeing, and this is still a reality. That this class will also help students like become like more watchful of how the US doesn't take responsibility for MS-13 or other issues in Central American as a homegrown phenomenon, or how environmental and indigenous rights are violated in Central America. So honestly, I feel like these objections like are not like gonna be a problem for the class. And I would like to end my presentation with a quote from Latino Leadership by Juana Bordas. It says, Latino leadership flows from the cultural spring, values unify Latinos, and nurture the emerging collective identity. This understanding will encourage young Latinos to integrate their cultural assets into their lives and leadership path. So this is it for me. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you, and here are my resources.